Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the SoloCam S40 from Eufy. This is a brand of anchors, and this is what I like to call a notification camera. So if it detects motion, it'll record a short snippet of video and it will notify you of that video. What's unique about this one versus some of the other notification cameras we've looked at is that it has a solar panel built in. So this will charge itself if you've got it in a good amount of sunlight throughout the day. And we're going to take a closer look at what this is all about in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this came in free of charge from Eufy. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this camera is all about. Now, the price point on this is $200. This is much more expensive than similar cameras we've looked at from Blink and Wyze. The difference here, of course, is that you have the integrated solar panel, which will keep it topped off if you've got it in good sunlight. What's also interesting about this one is that it does not have any cloud service attached to it. So everything that happens on this camera stays on this camera unless you explicitly download it. And although Eufy has a cloud service that they offer on some of their other cameras, it is currently not supported on this one. So you do have some privacy here in that your images are not going to some cloud server somewhere. However, if somebody were to walk off with the camera, all of the images are stored in the camera until you download them, and they can basically take their evidence with them if they're robbing you blind. So you do want to stay on top of downloading images on this thing, and those images do not download automatically. That includes the photos and the videos. You will get like thumbnails pushed out to you, but that's not enough, I think, to help a police investigation. So that's the one downside with this. But there's no ongoing fee for using it either, so that is an advantage. Now you'll see on the side here that it has a 2K. That refers to the video resolution. So this is slightly above 1080p, and I'll show you some visual examples of this in a few minutes. It shoots at 2304 by 1296 at a frame rate of about 15 frames per second. The video looks pretty good. It has 8 gigabytes of internal storage on board, and that's enough to store probably a month or two worth of video notification events. It'll do about a minute at a time, and I'll show you some of the options you have for adjusting those recordings as we go through the review here. What'll happen though is as the storage fills up, it'll delete the oldest videos to make room for the newest ones. So you definitely want to download things as soon as you see them, just to ensure that they don't get erased. Now, in addition to the camera here on the front, this has also got a little spotlight that you can configure to turn on when it detects motion, and it's pretty bright, as you can see here. It's not quite a spotlight that you would put above your garage perhaps, but I think it is bright enough to light up a doorway if you have somebody coming over to knock on the door. And I'll give you another image here of what the light spread looks like on it. So not terribly bright in a larger area like this, but I think again at a doorway or something it'll probably do pretty well. But as you'll see in a few minutes, that light will blow out any detail in the image. The good news is that this also supports infrared night vision, so you can get a night vision image without color if you choose to go that route. As far as the charging goes, you can of course use the solar panel, which we'll cover in more detail in a few minutes. You can also plug it into a USB port to charge its battery the old-fashioned way. And they say that the battery should last about 4 months or so if you get no solar energy at all. But your mileage will vary based on how often the camera activates. So if you have the camera in a very low traffic area, the battery is going to last a lot longer because it consumes the most amount of power when it powers up to record and then transmit its video notifications out to you. And of course, if it's not doing that activity as often, the battery will last a lot longer. And this is the mounting bracket. So what this does is it screws into the back of the camera here and you attach this to your home. It doesn't lock in any way. So again, it's going to be a bit of a flight risk if people want to walk off with it. But if you have it in a relatively safe area, you should be fine. It'll take a little bit of time to get it removed. And then there is a speaker on the bottom here, so you can communicate with people that are near the camera. The speaker isn't all that loud, but it's loud enough that if this was near your front door, somebody could communicate with you. and we'll do a sample of the audio coming in from the camera in a minute or two. Let me get this back out in my yard and we'll see how it all works and what the video quality looks like. All right, so I've got the camera set up on my wife's garden. This area gets a lot of activity because it's pointed at the driveway, but it also gets a lot of sun because it's in an area that is under sunlight most of the day. Now, at the time I'm shooting this video, it is the summer where we've got kind of the ideal amount of sunlight, and the sunlight, of course, will vary throughout the year, but we'll take a look in a minute under ideal conditions how well it does, getting triggered quite frequently, but also getting a good amount of sunlight for the charge. So let's start with image quality. This is the 2K image shot during the day here. It looks good, a lot of detail. You do get a lot of compression artifacts, which is common with this kind of camera, so it's often hard to pull out license plate details and that sort of thing. Night vision is a hit or miss depending on which mode you choose. So this is the infrared night vision mode. This does not turn on the spotlight, but does turn on these infrared illuminators that help its sensor pick up the image. But as you can see here, it is in black and white, but it does have a nice throw to it. It can pick up a lot of detail here, as you can see. Now, this is the mode involving the spotlight, and it will record in color, as you can see, at night, but the spotlight is so bright, it blows out the details in my face. So I think the spotlight works as a deterrent in that it'll scare somebody off when the light turns on, but you can't see much detail about the person you're scaring off. So I think it's a trade-off here as to which mode works best for you. For me, I think the black and white night vision is probably the better mode to leave on. But if you have this over a doorway, I think the spotlight might be a good idea to let people know that they're being monitored. Now, the camera will also record at 1080p. The files are smaller, but I didn't notice a very big drop-off in visual quality looking at the video output. And I think it's because there's so much video compression going on. But have a look at this 1080p clip, and you can also hear what the microphone on the camera sounds like. This is an audio check. I am testing audio on the camera, and then we'll see what the recording looks like. Bye-bye. Now, this camera connects directly to your Wi-Fi. And if you don't get a good Wi-Fi signal outdoors, that's going to represent a challenge for you in setting this up. Many cameras like this use a base station, and that base station sits inside the house and gives you a little more range to the outside. In this instance, you have to reach your Wi-Fi directly. Now, I've got a mesh Wi-Fi system, and I have one of the access points in an upstairs room that looks down on that garden, so I was able to get it set up relatively easily in my case. But if you have a single Wi-Fi access point and it doesn't really reach outside, you're going to have to think about how you might need to extend your Wi-Fi network to get to the areas that you want covered. The other challenge here is that you also have to find a spot that has good sunlight, because if the camera is sitting under your roof, for example, where there's going to be a lot of shadow over the camera throughout the day, you're not going to be able to make use of that solar panel that you're paying for. Now, you also get a solar indicator in the app here, and you can see how much sunlight the camera is receiving. This is not in real time. It updates every couple of minutes. So the best thing to do is to place the camera, wait a few minutes, load the app up, see how it's doing, and then readjust. And just to drive home this issue of shadowing, this is my home at around 4 p.m., and you can see how much of the front driveway here is shadowed, and even on the side here as well. The shadow is much narrower over here by the gutter, but if I had placed my camera in this spot, it would not get a lot of sun, even though it is pretty sunny out here. So this is a standard problem with solar panels, and you will need to play around a little bit to find the spot that works best for image quality, Wi-Fi, and sunlight. Now, in my case, I was very pleased out in the garden that the camera has been gaining battery life throughout the time I've been using it. So I purposely did not charge it when I took it out of the box. It came with about 40% on the battery. Now we're up to 62%. And they give you a pretty cool dashboard here to see how your solar power is going. It's not quite real time, but you will get this data updated on a fairly regular basis throughout the day. And then once a day, it'll give you the trend here as to what your battery life is looking like. So as you can see here, we started down at 40, and now we're just over 60%. And that's with all the notifications going and with me playing around with the live view on the camera. So I've been pretty impressed that it's a fairly efficient device in that the solar panel can keep that battery charged, and the charge is staying ahead of the usage that I am going through here. This will be very different in the winter. This will be very different when you've got a stormy day where it won't get as much charge. But I think if you start off with a full charge and you have it in good sunlight throughout the day, you probably will not be bringing this in all that often to charge, if at all, which I think is pretty cool, and it kind of lives up to the marketing here. This area here indicates how much charge you have done over the course of the camera's lifetime, and as you can see here, I'm almost to 2,000 milliamp hours of charge, and that's because I'm getting sunlight in that garden throughout the entire day. And of course, if the battery dies, you can charge it over USB back in the house for a few hours and then set it back up outside. Let's take a look now at its app, and this is the standard Eufy security app. So if you have other Eufy cameras, they will appear in here along with your solar camera. And if I tap on the play button here, this will take me to the live image of what's going on in my driveway at the moment, which thankfully is nothing. Now I've got a couple of buttons down here. I've got a siren that I can have go out of its speaker. I can mute the audio so I just get video with no sound. I can also hit this button here to record what the camera is currently picking up live. So right now I'm recording this, and this will get added to my list of recorded videos. And then of course I've got my spotlight button here to turn on the spotlight if I wanted to see what's going on. So you can manually control that spotlight if you want. Now, the camera will consume a lot of power when you're doing this. So this is one of the examples of an activity that will drain the battery a lot faster. So keep your live views to a minimum on this. And it looks like my wife is coming home here. Now, additionally, I can speak to the person who's out in my driveway here by holding down the button here and talking into my phone's microphone, and that will get transmitted to the camera. And although there's no cloud in between here, I can access this camera anywhere in the world, so I don't have to be on my home Wi-Fi to see it. I can be out and about on my 4G or 5G network on the phone and be able to monitor the camera in real time. Now, your camera's recordings will be collected along with all of your other Eufy recordings in the Events tab here. Now remember though, all of these recordings live on the camera, and if the camera were to be stolen or if it were to run out of battery, you won't be able to access anything until that camera makes its way back onto your Wi-Fi network. It groups everything by date, so I can go back in time and forward in time here. So we can go to July 20th and I can play back any clip here. Now this will get streamed off of the camera's Wi-Fi. So again, if the camera's not accessible, you can't do much with it. And then if I wanted to download the clip, I can click on download here, and that will transfer this from the camera's storage over Wi-Fi to my phone. It can do this over the internet, or it can do it locally on your network like I'm doing now. I can also share this, so if I hit the share button, it'll pull up the share panel on iOS or Android, so you can email it to somebody if you wanted to do that. And you also have the option to donate the clip to Eufy for AI analysis. And one of the things that the camera will detect are people in the image. So you can see here, this backyard alert had a human detected, which is different than a standard motion detection. And I'll show you some of the settings that you can do to arrange that in a little bit. And I found sometimes the streaming here gets a little jumpy, as you can see. And again, this comes back to the Wi-Fi issues we were discussing earlier. So if things don't look all that smooth, you might want to download the clip and play it back after you download it. And all those downloads will go into your photo library. Let's take a look now at some of the settings for the camera. So to adjust the camera settings, you go over to these three dots here and click on the gear icon, and that will bring you to the camera's control panel. We'll begin with the motion detection options here. I've had mine set to a sensitivity of 4. I've had really no false alerts here, even with trees blowing and that sort of thing. But if you're noticing that you're getting some false alarms, you might want to turn down that detection sensitivity a bit. Now you can also have it only detect humans during the day. And what this means is that if a car rolls up but a person doesn't get out, it won't record the event. And that, of course, would save you some battery. But I like to have it on all motion because I do like to see what cars are coming in and out of my driveway during the day, so I left that one on. Now you can also set activity zones for specific portions of the image, and let's take a look at that real quick. We'll go over to activity zone, and what we'll get here is a live image from the camera. And if I hit the plus button here, I can set up an area that I want to be notified if it ever sees somebody walking around in that spot. And then I can set up a second zone maybe over here and maybe extend it out this way. And what will happen is that once I enable this, anytime a person is detected in this green zone or this blue zone, it'll push me a notification and record. It will, though, record if it detects motion outside the zone, but not send me a notification. So this might be useful if you've got a door that nobody should be going into. You'll get notified that somebody's trying to get into that door, but not notified about all the other activity that's going on. But there will still be a recording of all of it. All right, back to the settings screen here. We have the dashboard, which is where you can find all of the solar and power data that we looked at earlier. Your spotlight settings are in here, and when the light is on, you can adjust its brightness and adjust its color temperature, which is pretty neat, so you can get it to where you want it to be. I'm going to turn it back off here. If you want to adjust the night vision, you do it here. So right now I've got it set to black and white, but if you enable color night vision, this will require the light to be turned on in order for it to give you that color night vision at night. And I guess you could adjust down the brightness level if you were seeing your subjects blown out. So that might be an adjustment to try to get that color night vision working. But again, I think the black and white night vision for me is where I want to go with it. Some video settings in here. This is where you would switch from 2K to 1080p. Again, not much of an image quality difference between the two, but the 1080p file sizes are smaller and they might transfer quicker if you have a weak Wi-Fi signal. Over here in audio settings, you can adjust the microphone on or off. If you want privacy, you can just disable the microphone outright. Your recordings will be silent, but you have that option there. And then as far as notifications go, you can determine what kind of notifications you want to get. So I've got mine to include a thumbnail. So what will happen is that when the camera is triggered, I will see an image along with a notification telling me that it either saw a person or detected some motion. Now, as far as recording length is concerned, you do have some flexibility to it, but not a lot. So where you find recording length is in the general settings here. And what you want to do is go over to Power Manager. And in here, you've got some options. Now, I've got mine in the optimal surveillance mode. And what this means is that the clip can be up to a minute in length, but it'll end sooner if the motion event ends before the minute is up. The default mode, I believe, is optimal battery life. And this is only going to give you a 20-second clip, which may not be all that useful. And in both of these modes, you don't really have any control over what's called the cooldown period. What that means is that after it's done recording, it waits a little bit and then it starts recording again if the event is still taking place. You do have some degree of customization available here, but the maximum clip length you can dial in is 2 minutes and the minimum cooldown period is 5 seconds. And of course, having a longer recording length and a shorter cooldown will result in more battery consumption. But if you've got good sunlight, you should be able to keep the camera working in one of these more power-hungry modes. Now, you can also share the camera with other people, but they have to download the Eufy app to do it. And in the settings here, there's an option to share device, and you can invite somebody who has the app installed to gain access to your camera, and they'll be able to download the images just like you can. So that might be an added thing to enable just in case you're away and something happens. You can make sure that those images get downloaded, because on this camera, everything has to be downloaded manually, at least at the moment. And if you are someone looking for connectivity with your existing security DVR, this does not support RTMP or any of the other standards for security cameras. It works exclusively with its app. And not all of the cloud features that are on other cameras are workable on this one at the moment. So you do want to, again, make sure you grab those images as soon as they come in. So overall, I am very pleased with the Eufy SoloCam here. I like how well it works out in sunlight to keep that battery charged, but the price point here is significant. It costs a lot more than the Blink and Wyze outdoor cameras that offer very similar functionality but cost a lot less. In fact, you can get solar panels for the Blink and the Wyze cameras for less than what you would get this camera for. So it does have a price premium, but at the same time, you're not getting hounded for cloud service because all of the clips live on the camera. They're not being sent anywhere. You get longer recording lengths versus Wise and Blink without having to pay the subscription fee, and that might be valuable for some folks. And if you're using Amazon or Google, you can integrate the camera in with your other security camera brands to have things kind of work as a singular unit. So all in, I think a really nice product here that works as advertised. I think the solar panel works exceptionally well on it, and if you place it correctly, you're never going to have to charge it. And I'm eager to see how well this one does in the winter. And it's weatherproof as well, so it can be rained on and snowed on and everything else. And this one's been rained on already, and we've had no problems with it. And it survived out in 90-degree sun that we've had over the last week here in Connecticut. So all in, a really solid camera from Eufy, but a little on the pricey side. That is going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Chris Allegretta, Brian Parker, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Baby Metal Fox God, Tom Albrecht, Amda Brown, Matt Zagaya, and Tech Time with Eric. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.